Right, let's get the very latest now. UK correspondent Benji is back with us. Benji, very good morning to you once again. Talk to us about the scale of choice facing people in this general elections. Are voters being offered divergent choices, Benji?
It's interesting you say that because all the conversation so far has been about just Boris Johnson, the Conservative leader, or just Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader. It's easy to forget there are a number of other parties with different ideas and different manifestos and different platforms as well. And actually, there's a lot of chatter around British politics that, oh, all these politicians are the same. Well, in fact, in this election, that's not quite the case. You have the Conservative Party who are pushing for Brexit, to leave the European Union by the end of January. You have the Labour Party who are saying, actually, we want a second referendum on that matter. And you have the Liberal Democrats as kind of the third party, I suppose, who would say they want to scrap Brexit altogether. Then there's the Scottish nationalists just north of the border who want independence from the UK. So if you are a voter and you're going to the polling station today, as many people are in the polling station behind me here, you'll have a number of different candidates and a number of different options in this crucial election.
What about the UK's economy and trade, Benji? What are the parties saying in terms of the direction and possible changes as compared to the last couple of years?
Well, it really rests on Brexit, ultimately. The Conservative Party want to leave the European Union, and at this current stage, we don't yet have a trade agreement with the EU following that. And really, Boris Johnson claims that he wants to get that done by the end of 2020. A lot of experts speculate as to whether that would be possible or not. And so trade relations with the European Union and the rest of the world will largely rest on what sort of arrangement or agreement is managed in that state, in that stage. The Labour Party, as an alternative, in terms of domestic policies, they've said actually they're going to pump huge amounts of investment into things like healthcare, into different social projects, into infrastructure, and that might make Britain an even bigger economy on the global stage. And actually, speaking of Labour, I have a teller from the party just next to me here who's been outside of the polling station all morning. This is Tony. And for our viewers, Tony, would you just care to explain exactly what you've been doing this morning, why you're standing out here in the cold, and what your role is?
Well, I'm here on behalf of the Labour Party, and the teller's role is to ask voters if they're prepared to give us their voter registration number. We record them. They go back to the central office in the constituency, and those people then look at the numbers, and they're looking for supporters that haven't voted. So if their supporters number doesn't appear, they will contact them or go round to their house and ask them if they're going out to vote, encouraging people to vote. So this is recording people who have voted so we can not bother them.
And so very briefly, does that mean that by the end of the day you could have a rough idea as to which way this constituency or other constituencies might be going? Will it be good news for Labour or bad news?
Me personally, no, and also nobody knows because we just have the numbers. We don't know how they voted. We're not allowed to ask how they voted. It's illegal.
So that's a key point, I think, and thank you for Tony for making it, which is that it's uncertain, this election, until really those results come out. Not even the tellers outside the polling station have any idea which way this is going to go.
Yeah, talk to us, Benji, about the opinion polls. What are these polls suggesting?
Well, Tony next to me was in a positive mood this morning, but I think even he and other Labour supporters will know that they are trailing currently in the polls to the Conservative Party, but not by an enormous amount. It is well within possibility that the Labour Party don't win a majority, but certainly cobble together enough votes to deny the Conservatives a majority and thereby end up with some sort of coalition government or agreement with other parties who might be in favour of a second referendum. So this is really a pivotal moment in British politics. One way down the fork in the road is Boris Johnson with his majority leading to Brexit next year. The other, a Labour minority, you would think, with other parties' support, and the outcome for that is still very much unknown.
So if it is as tight as people say, there is a real risk of a hung parliament, would you say, Benji?
Yes, the polls suggest that the Conservatives will probably come away with a majority, but polls and predictions have been wrong in the past, and there are plenty of people who still believe that a hung parliament could very well happen. It's the outcome that was the result certainly in 2017, unexpectedly, when Theresa May lost the majority. And in the case of a hung parliament, it's really difficult for any party to govern by themselves. They would need some sort of support, and that's where it gets slightly tricky, you see, because the Conservatives have no natural coalition partners, whilst Labour could potentially have the support of the likes of the Liberal Democrats or, as I mentioned before, the Scottish Nationalists. And so they'll be hoping that they get enough seats amongst them to deny the Tories an opportunity to govern the country for many more years to come.
Benji, before I let you go, what are the reports that you're getting with regards to the voting process this morning? All smooth sailing, or have there been some hiccups?
Yes, well, usually all goes well and all goes swimmingly here. You know, people like Tony by the door making sure everyone has their polling card and is doing the right thing. But it's worth mentioning, as you highlighted, that this year it has been slightly different. It was reported yesterday, so that's on Wednesday, that there was some complications around the electoral register and that some records had potentially been lost. So even if you'd applied to vote, even if you'd got all the details, you turn up at the polling station, actually they don't have you on record at all. It's worth mentioning that's affecting a very small minority of voters, and the large majority, the vast majority of people turning up at this polling station and many others around the country should face no complications at all. And providing they've registered to vote, it's encouraged they go to the polling station and have their say in this democratic process.
Benji Haya, our UK correspondent. Thank you. Well, world leaders need to start looking at climate change as an emergency rather than a process.